I need to deal with a Jesuit website called Crazy Gail Wiki because it's full of lies and I can't just sit on this. I went to God in prayer and asked him whether I should read, do my War on the Saints Bible study or deal with Crazy Gail Wiki, and the Lord said deal with Crazy Gail Wiki. Let me The Jesuits have created a website for the sole purpose of defaming my character and discrediting me because they find me a major, major threat. Which I think is ironic because they claim I'm a paranoid schizophrenic. And if I'm such a paranoid schizophrenic, Jesuits, then why have you created this humongous website to discredit me? I mean, if I'm really crazy, then you're not going to worry about it. You're going to just let it go because people are going to be able to tell. Well, let me read. I need to address some things on this website. They've got a page here called Gail and Sex. And here's what it says. This is from Crazy Gail Wiki. Gail is both hypersexual and yet strangely sheltered, expressing both an extreme craving for sex while simultaneously having extremely limited understanding of what it actually entails and what she's supposed to do. That's crap. I know what's involved in sex. I was in nursing school at FSU when I was married for 15 years. While this type of thinking might be normal for a teenager or even an inexperienced young adult, Gail is a woman of good vintage and formally married, so one would naturally assume that she had a more matured grasp of the realities of sex, especially when it comes to how Part A fits into Slot B. Oh, the gall of the Jesuits to insinuate that I don't know how about sex. On the contrary, Gail's sexuality is as much of a riddle as the rest of her psychology. Really? I don't get it. What's the riddle about my sexuality? Let's continue here. Hypersexuality. For a woman past reproductive age, Gail is extremely sexual. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with being passionate with my husband in bed? I don't get what the Jesuits are trying to drive at here. Theories include hypersexuality as a product of her mental illness. I am not hypersexual. If anybody's hypersexual, it's Laurie McBride and Camila Alves having sex with giraffes, having sex in the middle of a trial. Yes, Laurie McBride, in the middle of the trial, ran to the bathroom to have sex with a Brent Spiner clone. Yes, right in the middle of the trial. And they're accusing me of being hypersexual. I didn't do that in the middle of the trial. Of course, I was on Skype and I couldn't have done it, but even if I could have done it, I would not have done it. Imagine the gall of these Jesuits saying that I am hypersexual when in the middle of the trial, Laurie McBride flashed all of these naked photos of her and Brent in all sorts of sexual positions, having bukkake sex, homosexual sex, sex with animals, sex with elephants, with footballs going into anuses. I wouldn't do this. And Jesuits, you're going to get on me about being hypersexual? Don't be a hypocrite. Theories include hypersexuality as a product of her mental illness, or simply a method in which to fill deep emotional voids. Whatever the case, on tame days, she masturbates at least nightly. Oh, if only I had the time. Wishful thinking. And claims to receive constant sexual messages from the men throughout the day. Oh, we would love it if we could do this, Jesuits, but the problem is you keep us so busy with all your garbage, we don't have time to do constant sexual messages throughout the day. This is a bunch of crap. Enough to distract her with arousal and telepathic dirty talk at work. Brent Spiner, Matthew McConaughey, Hugh Jackman, Gerard Butler, and Vladimir Putin, we don't think that our desire to love and nurture each other is dirty talk. Maybe to you it's dirty, Jesuits, but we think it's awesome. And besides, they don't arouse me with telepathic dirty talk at work. Unfortunately, we are so busy, we don't have time to be lovers sometimes. So this is a gross exaggeration. I have had days where sometimes in the middle, just maybe once or twice in the 8-hour shift when I'm there at Walmart, Vladimir or Brent will try to turn me on, and it lasts maybe 5 minutes, but it's not that distracting, and it doesn't keep me from focusing on my job. And it doesn't happen. And lately, we've been so busy, it hasn't been happening. In fact, I think the last time this happened was maybe a month ago. I don't know. I can't remember. On far worse days, she spends her time entirely in bed, masturbating, to the point she neglects her daily chores. This happened more this past summer than recently. Recently, Brent and Vladimir and I, we've just been so busy. We haven't had time to be lovers. In fact, Vladimir Putin's been kind of complaining because he wants more time from me. And I said, I'm sorry, Vladimir, I've just been so busy. Well, see, it's not that he's complaining. It's just that it really encourages him when I make love to him. And Vladimir works so hard for me. He's practically behind Walmart every day judo chopping evil Jesuits that harass me at that store. And he deserves time for me. So when he asks for me to make love to him brain to brain, I almost always try to accommodate him. Because it really encourages him. He's a very hardworking president, and it really encourages him, and he deserves it. He's risked his life for me time and time again. Failing to understand intimacy, Gail has a tendency to insert her overt sexuality in places where it doesn't belong. Really? Selfishly walking over the personal sexual boundaries of her lovers during inappropriate times? Oh, come on, Jesuits. That is an out-and-out lie. Why, Vladimir Putin's been feeling neglected. He told me he's not getting enough. I can assure you with 100% certainty that none of the men on my marriage list feel that I do this. In fact, it's the opposite. They feel like they're not getting enough. And I often feel guilty because I give like 95% of my attention to Brent Spiner. And I horribly neglect Matthew McConaughey and Gerard Butler and Hugh Jackman. I think it's been forever since I've made love to them brain to brain. Matthew, I've been encouraging him a little bit more because he went through hell with Camila Alves and he needed me to support him, so I helped him there. But these men, this is brain to brain sex, okay? These men, if they didn't want it, I would never force it on them. In fact, usually they are asking me, and they're saying that they want more. So this is not a situation where the men don't want me to make love to them. They are usually kindly complaining to me that they would like to have more. So no, this is totally off. The men don't feel this way about me at all. When Brent Spiner remembers his rape of Laurie McBride and falls into a deep depression, Brent doesn't fall into a deep depression about Laurie McBride because he has me. So he's not focused on Laurie McBride. He's focused on me, so this is a bunch of crap. Gail attempts to heal him by making nude videos of herself and insisting they have a lot of sex to make the memories of the rape go away. Actually, now that Brent has found the Lord Jesus Christ, he doesn't have that pain anymore. He's not depressed about Laurie McBride. He doesn't even think about her. She's not even in his heart. She's not even in his thoughts. He's thinking about me all day long. He's not even focused on her. So this is just a bunch of garbage. She similarly responds to the rapes of other men by making nude videos and having sex with them in a misguided attempt to straighten them back out. Actually, I make the nude videos because, see, my men want to be with me. And the Jesuits have made it that it's life-threatening for us to meet face-to-face. So we've had to resort to brain-to-brain sex. I make the nude videos to compensate. Men are stimulated by sight, okay? You know that. You know that a man likes to see a naked woman. And when he's getting ready to make love to his wife, he likes to see her beautiful nude body because it turns him on. It gets him into the mood for the consummation. And so I do this for them to enhance our brain-to-brain loving, to make it seem more real to them, to compensate for the fact that we can't be together because the Jesuits threaten our lives if we do. So I don't make the nude videos to help them heal over like Camila Alves with Matthew McConaughey or Laurie McBride with Brent Spiner. I do it to enhance our lovemaking brain to brain. That's my motive. It has nothing to do with trying to heal them from their rape. I usually let Gerard Butler deal with that, though. And the best way for me to heal my men from their rape is to just be a really passionate and exciting lover to them. And when I'm making love to them, I don't even talk about Laurie McBride or Camila Alves or any of those other women. We just focus on each other. That's it. We don't dwell on, we try not to dwell on anything ugly and morbid like Laurie McBride or Camila Alves. We don't even want to think about them. In fact, Matthew McConaughey, when he thinks about Camila Alves, he's literally told me, he says, yuck, I would never marry that woman. He told me that right out. He says, congratulations to the Jesuit One Press because you've convinced the whole world that she's my woman. But he says, that's not going to stop the fact that Gail's the real woman of my heart. And when he thinks of Camila Alves, he just says, yuck. He says he thinks she's disgusting. She makes love to giraffes and all this other stuff. And this is what she was showing pictures of. And she does bukkake sex. This is not what Matthew is into. Okay? So when I make nude videos, it's to enhance my brain-to-brain loving. It has nothing to do with trying to heal him from Camila or trying for Brent to heal from Laurie McBride. When Vladimir Putin had a near-fatal heart attack, rendering him unable to have sex with Gail, he volunteered Matthew McConaughey as his replacement for a month. This implies that Gail couldn't wait an entire month for a supposed husband to recover from a heart attack before demanding sex. Oh, this is just out and out wrong, and would easily substitute another man for this purpose. She praises Vladimir for his valor in allowing her a sexual surrogate. Let me tell you what really happened, okay? In November 2005, my men informed me that Vladimir Putin had a near-fatal heart attack. It was so debilitating, for him to have sex would kill him. My men had to literally lay in a bed beside him and use their heart to be his heart. And they took turns laying in a bed beside him, using their heart to be his heart so that he could circulate the blood through his body because his heart had completely stopped. And for a month, they had to use groundbreaking computer satellite technology to rebuild his heart from the genetic cellular level. And during that time, he could not have sex. And Vladimir came to me and he said, Gail, I cannot have sex with you now. It could kill me. And if I die, that would devastate you. He said, I beg of you. He says, you are a very passionate woman. Could you please allow Matthew McConaughey, the star in your film Silver Skies, to be your substitute husband for a month? I said, Matthew, I said, Vladimir, I don't feel right about this. He said, you're the man that I need to be with, and I feel like I'm going to be betraying you if I go to Matthew McConaughey. I said, I don't want to do this. I feel guilty about this. Vladimir said, Gail, I insist. He said, I want you. He said, you're a passionate woman, and I just feel bad that I cannot meet your needs for this month. And I have a lot of respect for Matthew, and he really likes you, and he would like to do it. And I said, I looked at Matthew's picture. At this time, I had never even heard of Matthew McConaughey. I've never really been big into Hollywood actors, believe it or not. But I did know that at that time, my novel Silver Skies had just been made into a film. Steven Spielberg, I think, was working on it. And I knew they had cast Matthew for the role. And I saw his photo. At that time, his photo graced the cover of People magazine. And I liked the expression on his face. And I remember telling Vladimir, I said, he looks like When I created my lead character, Dorben Habakkuk, for Silver Skies, he was like, when I wrote Silver Skies, it was my catharsis for not being able to have Brent Spiner in my life. And so Dorben Habakkuk was like Brent Spiner to me. He was like the lover that I couldn't have, that I wanted to have. And I put him into this book that I wrote. He was my dream lover, my Brent Spiner. So when I wrote Silver Skies, it was my way of making love to Brent. And I patterned Dor somewhat after Brent. Not completely, but somewhat. And when I saw the picture of Matthew McConaughey on the cover of People magazine, the first thing that came through my mind is, there's my Dor Benabakuk. There's my Silver Skies lead. And I says, that guy is sexy because he looks just like the dream man that I created for my novel Silver Skies. I actually created a character the character I created in Silver Skies was my dream man. He was my dream lover. And I made him the lead character for my novel. And when I saw Matthew McConaughey on the cover of People magazine, he looked like my Dor. So I thought about that, what Vladimir suggested. I said, you know what, Vladimir, Vladimir says, Matthew McConaughey wants to talk to you. So I said, okay. I said, I'm not sure I'm up to this, but I'll let Matthew talk to me. So Matthew came to me. He says, and Matthew's a real gentleman. He said, Gail, I can understand if you feel uncomfortable about this. And if you don't want me to be your substitute husband, that's fine. He said, but I just want to tell you something. He said, I read your book, Silver Skies, and he said, I think that's the greatest love story I've ever read. He said, I had to read it to get into my role as Dor Benabakuk for the movie. And as I read your book, I just admire you so much. I thought, he says, your love scenes have so much sensitivity, so much passion. And I was just curious. I said, I want to find out more about this author because Matthew said he was so impressed with my writing. He did a little research on me as the author. And in the process of doing so, he said he fell in love with me. And that he was very interested. He said that he just would be honored if he could be my lover in the place of Vladimir Putin for a month. And he said, of course, if you don't feel comfortable with this, that's fine. So I said, but Matthew, wouldn't this be betraying Vladimir? And Matthew said, well, Vladimir doesn't feel that way. He likes to meet your needs sexually, and you're a passionate woman, and he wants me to take his place. So I decided to do it because Vladimir insisted. And the first time that I came with Matthew, I felt kind of guilty, but Matthew was such a thrilling lover, I got over the guilt right away. He was just so thrilling and nurturing and sensitive that Matthew and I had a thrilling month together. And when Vladimir was ready to come back to me, and Matthew told me a little bit about himself, and I asked him about, at that time I knew that he had broken up with Penelope Cruz. And I said, Matthew, aren't you with Penelope? And he said, Penelope and I have come to an understanding, and she understands that I want you, and she's being really cool about it, and she's going to just, let me do what I want to do. And he just said it's not fair to Penelope that my heart is with you and not with her, and so I'm just going to move forward. And he said, anyways, by the time the month was over, Matthew McConaughey spoke to Brent Spiner and Vladimir Putin and said that he wanted to marry me. He said, if anything should happen to Brent or Vladimir, he said, put me next in line. He said, I had such a thrilling month with Gail. I want to marry her if she ever becomes available. So he was actually the first guy on the marriage list. But that's the truth about what happened, folks. Don't believe this stuff at the Jesuit website. Okay. And then it says here, brain-to-brain loving. In the 1990s, Vladimir Putin introduced the concept of brain-to-brain communication and with it brain-to-brain loving to Gail. He introduced the technology by one day manifesting as a voice speaking to Gail in her head, seducing her with sexy talk, and demanding she go into the next room to have wild, passionate, telepathic sex. Her mom was let me tell you what happened. I was sitting on the sofa in the living room with my mom, and I just felt overcome by Vladimir. And he just said, Gail, he said, I've discovered a new technology, and I want to make love to you. He said, I'm just dying to make love to you. Can you please go to your room and let me love you the way that I feel? And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get to make love to Vladimir Putin. And, I knew that he was crazy about me. So I went, this was the first time I'd ever had a brain-to-brain sexual experience. I went into the room and I just felt overwhelmed with, I could feel what he was feeling, and he nurtured me and he caressed me and he passionately made love to me, and it was so caring and so tender and so, it was awesome, man. I just felt, I thought, Vladimir, what a lover you are. Now that is the truth. It was very nurturing. He was a very nurturing, tender, yet direct and manly lover. And my mother was in the living room, okay? It says, since this day, Gail has engaged in similar sexual acts with several other men on her marriage list. Okay, Vladimir Putin was the first man I had brain-to-brain sex with. And I confined it with him until Matthew McConaughey. So with Vladimir, it was in 2003. And it was only Vladimir from 2003, 2004, up until November 2005. November 2005, I had the 1 month with Matthew McConaughey. And then I let off on that and went back to Vladimir, because that was the deal. And Matthew said he respected that Vladimir deserved to go back to me, and Matthew backed off after that. And then very quickly, the Jesuits did damage control. Once they knew that Matthew wanted to marry me, they wasted no time to get Jesuit Camila Alves, inject her into Matthew's life, and it devastated Matthew, because he's never wanted Camila Alves from day one. And all the stuff you read about her in the press, that's all Jesuit crap. And Matthew is not married to Camila Alves. He does have a clone, and the clone has been making some appearances with Camila. And I'm not saying all the appearances with Camila are clone appearances, but he's never wanted her from day one. From November 2005 till now, I've been the queen in Matthew McConaughey's heart. Brain-to-brain loving amounts to Gail lying in bed under the covers with a pillow on top of her as she masturbates externally. The way brain-to-brain loving works is I do use my fingers to pretend like that is the man's sexual organ, but there is an actual interaction between me and the man. It isn't just me all by myself. And it's more than just a physical interaction. You can sense the emotions of the man, because the brain-to-brain communication is more than just physical. You sense the emotions, you sense the feelings, and he can talk to me while he's intimate with me. So in some ways, this is better than sex, because you can actually sense the emotions of the person while you're having intimacy with them. Sexual morals. As a well-behaved Christian girl, Gail strictly believed in no sex before marriage and went to intense lengths to prevent it from happening. During the time she was dating her ex-husband, they never once hugged, touched, or kissed so as not to risk temptation and sexual arousal. Now, that is correct. In my 20s, I was very strict. I was so determined to save myself and be a virgin for my husband, and I was a virgin when I married my husband. By the way, I'm proud of that. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a virgin, but I think I went a little overboard. But Jesus said he was proud of me for my sexual standards as I dated my previous husband. And it is true that we never kissed or anything, and then we got married. And that's because the guy that I had before him was trying to get all over me, so it was kind of like a rebound reaction. I wasn't like that with every guy that I dated in my 20s. There were some guys that I had some passionate kissing with, but I never did have premarital sex. I was a virgin when I married my husband. Gail's morals would hit a frustrating impasse when she began to cheat on her husband with Brent Spiner. Yeah, that was kind of frustrating to me. Let me tell you what happened with Brent Spiner. I'm trying to cover a lot of ground. I was married to my ex-husband, and he turned out to be a cold lover, like a robot duck. Kissing him was about as exciting as kissing the wall. And then deeply passionate and warm Brent Spiner called me on the phone in 1991, and I know it was Brent. And he was just dying to go to bed with me. He would say, Gail, how are you? I'd say, I said, Brent, I know it's hard for you to talk to me like this. He said, it is hard for me to talk to you like this, Gail. He said, but I want you. I said, can I come over? I said, Brent, I said, it wouldn't be right. I can't let you come over. He said, why not? I said, it wouldn't be right. And then he just gently hung up the phone. Click. Brent's always been a gentleman. He never forced himself on me. And then I would write him a letter and explain to him that I really wanted him, but it went against my moral standards. And at this time, I was going to church like 3 times a week. I had surrendered to be a missionary. It was very difficult for me to turn him down because I was married to a man who was cold and bad. To me, to say no to Brent Spiner was like sacrificing Isaac on the altar. It was one of the most difficult things I ever did. But what I did to make up for it, because I just felt bad because Brent wanted me so bad. When he talked to me on the phone, I could sense his longings. I could tell he was dreaming about making love to me all day long. It was like he'd get on the phone and he'd say, oh. He would just say, why don't you just pull down your panties? And he said, I can just imagine what it would be like to make love to you. He talked to me like that. And oh man, he would turn me on. I would spend the rest of the day just dreaming about making love to him. It was so hard for me to turn him down. You say, oh, that was a fake. It wasn't Brent, but no, it was Brent Spiner. Let me tell you how I figured out it was him. When my friend Melody Rondeau sent me Old Yellow Eyes Is Back, his first music album. And when I listened to the longings in the voice, I realized that Brent made that album for me when he was singing, good night, sweetheart, though I'm not beside you. Good night, sweetheart, still my love will guide you. He was singing about me. I thought, oh my God, he made that music for me. And when I heard that, I fell in love with Brent Spiner. I thought, oh, when I said, Jesus, and I've got to turn him down. I said, Lord, this is so hard. I said, I want to be with him. Anyways, it was Brent Spiner. The Jesuits know it was Brent Spiner. And Brent even tells me himself it was Brent Spiner. And even in the courtroom, if you were to put Brent under lie detection, he would tell you he did call me. Anyways, we got the evidence for it. It was Brent Spiner. And I had to turn him down. The way I made up, I felt guilty because I wanted him, and yet I felt guilty for turning him down because he wanted me so bad and I felt like he deserved me. You see, at this time, Brent and I before Brent propositioned me, he was helping me fight government corruption because I was being harassed by the government over my child, and he helped me with that. Anyways, it says, when Gail divorced her husband, she started to have brain-to-brain sex with Vladimir Putin and various other men, including Brent Spiner. That's not completely correct. When I divorced my husband, I didn't have brain-to-brain sex until 2003. And when I divorced my husband, Brent had wiretapped my phone, and I was talking to him on my phone. There was no brain-to-brain communications at this time. This came later. Vladimir Putin is the one who introduced me to brain-to-brain sex. When I divorced my husband, I was dreaming about Brent Spiner every day. In fact, Brent Spiner played a role. He played a role in the movie Esther. Yeah, I think he worked on that with Franco Nero to honor me. And like I said, I'm covering a lot of ground in this video, but there's a bunch of crap in this Jesuit website. And I'm going to be dealing on this video about Gail and sex and what they say about me. When confronted with the fact that she is not married to Brent Spiner, she claims that sex, including, Gail claims that brain-to-brain sex is not only on equal level with real sex. Oh, no, I do not believe brain-to-brain sex is on equal level with real sex. That is totally wrong. I've never stated that. But that it is better than real sex. In some ways, it's better than real sex. In some ways, it's not. It's better than real sex in the fact that you've got the emotional closeness there, because you can sense the emotions of the other person. However, to guard her sexual integrity, She creates several levels of cognitive dissonance to make sure all of her moral bases are covered should she be questioned about it from any angle. To be honest, the reason that I don't feel immoral about the brain-to-brain sex is because my primary reason for doing it is to encourage my men, because they are going through so much for me as they fight the Jesuits. And they need me to make love to them, just to help them with the morale, because the Jesuits have devastated them, pairing them up with women who don't love them, who are Jesuit women, who use them and lie about them, and defame their character before the world, go to the press with lies, stating that they have relationships with these men when they don't. Do you know how discouraging it is for the whole world to believe that you've had a sexual relationship with a woman when you have not had a sexual relationship with a woman? This is what Matthew McConaughey has had to go through with Camila Alves, what Brent Spiner's had to go through with Laurie McBride, and what Vladimir Putin has had to go through with Ludmila Putin. Ludmila Putin, Camila Alves, and Laurie McBride are all Jesuit agents. Their job was to destroy the love that these men had for me. And it's devastated them. And my main reason for wanting to make brain-to-brain love to these men is to nurture them and to encourage them and not allow the Jesuits to devastate these men just because they've committed the unpardonable sin of being in love with the King David woman. The woman who will be Jesus Christ's lover in the future millennium. Jesus Christ said he would fill me with his semen. And, you know, I'm not sure how to interpret this, but he did say that to us in a Skype conversation. And for that reason, all of the devil's people are so obsessed with me. I believe that the Jesuits are a demon-possessed organization. Obviously, Satan opposes Jesus Christ. And if I'm going to be Jesus' lover in the millennium, and I don't know if I'm going to really be his lover, but he's going to fill me with his semen and maybe kind of like love me indirectly through Brent Spiner. I'm not sure of all the details of how he's going to go about it, but he's going to fill me with his semen. So I guess maybe I'm not his lover, but I'm going to be getting his semen. So I don't know how you interpret that. Okay? But the reason I mentioned this is why the devil and the devil's people are so obsessed with me. Okay? Now let's go on with this lying website. Basically, no matter which way the concept is attacked, Gail has a means to explain that she is not engaging in any taboo sexual behavior. I got to admit that after Brent Spiner came in my life, I had to rethink many of my moral values and approach my sexuality differently. My main motive when I make love to my men is to encourage them and nurture them. And they all work together as a team. There is no rivalry between them. We're all like one big family. You might say, this is polygamy. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. If it wasn't for the Jesuits, it would just be me and Brent Spiner and nobody else. But because the Jesuits interfered with me and Brent Spiner by inserting that monster Laurie McBride into our relationship, and she literally raped Brent Spiner and devastated him and devastated me by trying to destroy his awesome love for me, that if the Jesuits did not interfere with me and Brent Spiner, there would be no Vladimir Putin, there would be no Matthew McConaughey. But because the Jesuits created so many complications between me and Brent, that's why all these other men came into the picture. And go to my website and read my story, because it's like way too complicated to cover all this in a video. Unrealistic expectations. Gail admits that her ideal view of sex comes from the romance movies she enjoys. That is totally off. I think most romance movies out there stink. Go to Church of Gail and read my latest post there where I talk, churchofgail.com, churchofgail.com, and read my latest post. I've got a whole post up there about this stuff about the movies. I think the average Hollywood movie stinks, especially in the romance department. She dreams about cliche, safe-for-TV love scenes, which she sees as a model for how real sex should work. That's crap. And indeed, how real romance between real couples should work. That's crap. That isn't how I feel at all. While most teenage girls pass through this phase and adult women know how to quarantine these exaggerated ideas to fantasy, Gail will not tolerate anything less than perfect Hollywood romance in her reality. Perfect Hollywood romance? Are you kidding? Let me tell you what is a perfect romance. It's Song of Solomon. It's like the lovers in my novel Silver Skies. Why, I think Hollywood romance is cheap, trashy. One of the main reasons I wrote Silver Skies was to try to write a decent love story, because I don't think there are any decent love stories out there in Hollywood. I think I write better love stories than all of them out there. This clash of realities may explain the lack of physical knowledge she appears to display. Lack of physical knowledge. I know what's involved in sex. Goodness, I'm 54 years old, and this is crap. Even though she's had a great deal of actual physical sex with her ex-husband, Gail claims that Brent Spiner's penis is roughly 18 inches long. I never said that. His penis is most certainly not 18 inches long, and Vladimir's girth is more than 2.5 inches across. I'm not sure about that, but, you know, why are the Jesuits bringing all this up? I mean, this is crazy. While she realizes that these dimensions are not normal, speaking with excitement about how Vladimir will stretch her out, I wouldn't speak with excitement about that. And Brent will have to do her in strange positions. Oh, this is so... Jesuits, you are the ones that need to go to the mental hospital, okay? You are sick. The way you talk. She is unaware that what she is imagining is actually physically impossible. I do know one thing for sure. Brent Spiner's penis is not 18 inches long, okay? As far as Vladimir, I think I'm going to stay off that subject. Let's go on. In the dildo call, Gail is confronted with a sex toy. Oh, yeah. During the trial, Laurie McBride hit Brent Spiner over the head with a dildo and made him cry. Laurie McBride is the sex pervert, not me. Gail is confronted with a sex toy that is roughly half the size dimensions she is imagining for Vladimir Putin and Brent Spiner. Why are the Jesuits bringing all this up? When she attempts to use the dildo and fails to even insert it, she comes to the conclusion that actually Vladimir, Brent, and Matthew McConaughey gave me a dildo for a Christmas present. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can't believe they did this. But I don't really like to use it because, you know, it's not really, yeah, it's not them. I mean, you can't have sex with a dildo, okay? I've actually kind of gotten away. They wanted me to use it because they thought it would make our brain-to-brain loving more real, but you can't have sex with a dildo. No offense taken, Vladimir and Brent. I mean, I appreciate your Christmas present, but, you know. They sent that to you? Yes, and they had me open the present on Skype. It's actually, you can go to my website and view the Skype conversation there if you're interested at Gabriel Chana, GabrielChana.com/church.html. She's come to the conclusion that there must be a special way men are able to penetrate a woman. Oh, come on, duh. It doesn't take much to realize that, you know, most people know that when a man has sex with a woman, that, you know, it's not going to work very well with a dildo. Need I say any more? Let's move on. Oh, Jesuits, you're sick. You Jesuits are sick that you would even bring this up. Okay, I had to comment about this stupid, idiotic, crazy Gail Wiki website, which clearly indicates that all of the Jesuits need to be admitted to the insane asylum and that they're a bunch of dirty sex perverts. And that's the reason. And they're transposing their dirty minds and their dirty thoughts onto me, claiming that I am like them. I most certainly am not like you Jesuits. And get off your stinking high horse with all your high-sounding psychological language, saying that I'm some sort of crazy paranoid schizophrenic. Well, you're the schizophrenic. You're the one that needs to go to the mental hospital. Look at the way you talk. Goodness.